Live and unscripted from the DC metro area, this is a story of surviving and thriving after a layoff. This outdoor podcast is brought to you by atopcareer.com. Episode 23. Edythe reviews the factors that led to her being offered high-quality positions that were very good fits for her skills and her background and her interests. Now, these are things that you too can do to proactively manage your own career development.
I did get my offer letter from the company that I really wanted to work for. I'm really grateful for that. The irony is that last week was the last week at my former employer, but I also got 2 job offers that week. So I'm still going to be getting my severance. I still have a good severance package. Really, I couldn't ask for a better outcome for myself. So right now, employer number 1 is conducting a background check on me. And so there's several things that I need to do before I have a formal offer in place. I have not yet told employer number 2 about this. And part of it is, I admit, it's fear because I know that they were assuming and hoping that I would go to work for them. And me leaving there is going to put a huge gap in the services that they provide. I'm going to do my best to minimize that as much as possible. It's just the right thing to do. The other issue is something that I think job seekers should be aware of, and that is that until you do have a formal offer in place, anything is up for grabs, so to speak. I don't think there's anything that is in my background that's going to prevent me from getting this position, but, at the same time, you never know. So just use your best judgment as far as that goes and know that anything can happen in the meantime. And I have heard about issues with background checks or offers being rescinded for a number of reasons. So just something to be aware of. What I want to mention to you today are the factors that I believe have led me to this point where I am now, and that you can also use and implement into your own job search to secure a high-quality opportunity that is a best fit for your skills, background, and interests. First is something I've really harped on about throughout this podcast series, and that is being in the right mental, emotional, and physical state of mind. Being good with yourself. Even though if you did get unexpectedly let go, like I did, take some time to get to that good place. You're not going to make your best decisions when you're in a reactive state of mind rather than a proactive state of mind, and do whatever it needs to do to get yourself into that frame of mind before you begin job searching and interviewing. Otherwise, you will risk coming across as desperate, angry, frustrated, or depressed to your audience, and that's definitely not what you want to do. And really, that is the single most important thing, I think, that people can do to proactively manage their career development. Second is something that you can do, actually a few things that you can do before beginning to apply or go on interviews, and that is to have a strong network in place, have good relationships with people, and make sure that those people, if at all possible, are in good positions to either present opportunities to you or to advocate on your behalf. This is something that I recommend that everybody does, even if you haven't yet lost your job or you don't believe you're in danger of doing so. In today's uncertain climate, it is, unfortunate that unexpected things happen to good people all the time. Just be prepared. Along those lines, take an inventory of your finances, know what your worth is, and have a career target in place. If you are considering changing career paths, it might be helpful to reach out to a career counselor or a career coach to help you navigate that process or help you to come up with a target for yourself. Remember that in today's market, it's all about how your skills and abilities can be beneficial to the employer, and your resume is not going to be a laundry list of past positions, but rather accomplishments that are geared towards a specific employer and or specific career field. So the more specific you can be, the better. Another thing that is very helpful to people in today's world is a strong digital presence. I believe this is what ultimately led me to get the offer that I did. The first question I was asked in the interview was about some of my Myers-Briggs podcasts. The organization had checked me out beforehand, so they knew what I do. They know about the knowledge and the skills that I bring to the table. And I am fairly certain that it's because of this that I didn't have to go through second or third interviews, as is often the case today. So I'm really, really lucky for that. Now, a digital presence is not something that you can build overnight. So it's much like your network. It's something that you can start working on now, even if you have not yet been let go from your position. I also believe that in today's world, a lack of digital presence can work against you. I've run into a lot of people who are my age and even younger who have really no digital footprint and aren't interested for whatever reason in using social media platforms, or they don't want to put their information out there for the world to see. And I do understand this to an extent, but I really do believe that it can help you if you learn how to use it successfully and you become comfortable using it. Interestingly enough, I also heard a story recently about a gentleman who lost an opportunity because of some information and pictures on his Facebook page. And unfortunately, he didn't make some of these pictures that were doing keg stands and drinking and things like this. He didn't make these private, and he lost out on a bid for an opportunity because the person who was managing that process really didn't like seeing this 35, 40-year-old guy doing keg stands and showing that off to the world. So do be careful of that. Just like anything else in life, whatever it is that you can do, it can come back to haunt you at some point. So next, regarding actually job searching. If you've listened to my other podcasts, you've noted that I'm an advocate for not relying on online job boards and using mega job aggregators like Indeed.com for your job search. Most people don't get their jobs this way, and by the time these positions have been advertised, it's very likely an internal candidate or a known candidate is the preferred person for that role, or it could be a position that's contingent upon. Chances are the position's already been filled. So most people still get their jobs through someone they know and through networking. In my case, I did get my position this way, but I don't consider that the norm. I consider it just luck on my part. Most people I know and have worked with have not gotten positions that way. Along these lines, remember that as a job seeker, you shouldn't be applying to anything and everything that you see out there. It's really, really important to customize your resume. So if you do see a position posted online that you want to apply for, unless you customize your resume to that position, it's very unlikely you're going to get past the applicant tracking systems that are used to screen candidates. So that's very, very important. And I also believe that was a huge factor in me being called for the interview. Know that as part of the interviewing process, there's often gatekeepers, recruiters, or HR people who screen candidates as a first point of contact. And that may be in terms of setting up a phone screen or a phone interview for you. It will also be very likely that if you are invited in for an in-person interview, you'll be invited in for a second, third, or possibly even fourth round of interviews after that. Again, this was not my case, but I really don't consider myself to be the norm as far as this goes. Before any interview, make sure that you are well prepared. And if you can even go on some interviews for positions you're not so interested in before the big interviews, that might even be helpful for you. Practice with somebody you know. Try to anticipate questions. Make sure you research the company thoroughly to get an idea of what this role is going to be, what challenges the company is facing, and why they need someone with your skills and background to fill the position. know your own strengths and weaknesses as a candidate. If someone is able to give you some really honest feedback about who you are, I really think that's helpful for most people. It was absolutely helpful for me. And take what they say seriously and try to work on the areas where you envision yourself to be deficient. In my case, for position number 1, I did over-prepare for the interview, and once I got there, I found they weren't asking a lot of the questions that I thought they might, but that's okay. It's better to over-prepare than to under-prepare and put yourself out of the running. Once you are invited in for an in-person interview, know that it is really at that point going to be more of a personality culture fit than it is going to be about your hard skills. The company's already at that point determined in terms of your hard skills and your background that you are a fit for that role. So it's really your job to try to anticipate what the culture is like and come across in a pleasant and engaging way to the interviewers. After the interview, make sure that you write a thank you letter to your interviewers. Again, something that a lot of people forget to do or fail to do that can set you apart from the competition. Finally, I think it's really important to believe in yourself, but at the same time, be expectant of anything and don't be overconfident. In the last couple podcasts before I got my job offer, you may remember that I mentioned I've got a 50-50 shot at this. And I still do believe it was 50-50. I was prepared for the worst, but I was hoping for the best. If you have gone through a really thorough self-assessment, if you've come out feeling good about yourself, being in a good frame of mind, that should be a pretty easy thing to achieve. So those are my tips, kind of as a summary of every point on my journey so far, and I do hope it's been helpful for you.
Find Edythe online at www.topcareer.com. Thanks for listening.